My name is Kelsey, I'm 19, and I'm majoring in Resource and Environmental Management here at SFU. I was born in New Westminster and have lived in North Delta for the majority of my life. So this city that I grew up in has shaped me into the person who I am today, along with the heritage and family that was given to me by my parents. This is my individual geography. A huge part of who I am also comes from the people that I choose to surround myself with. I love my friends, and they are my second family. This project introduces two of my best friends, Matthew, who I've known since the 3rd grade, and Aaliyah, who I've met in high school. These are some of the most important people in my life, and I can be myself around them and feel totally comfortable in their presence. They have a huge influence in my experience living where we do, and are as much a part of me as my city is. They have their own individual geographies that shape who they are, ones that I cannot understand. Their own experiences living where we do are a part of them, and they're separate from the ones that we share, and the ones that I have. So this project is going to explore some of those stories. And without further ado, these are my people, these are their stories, this is our place, and these are our embodied geographies.
Hi, my name is I'm going to be 19 in a month. I go to UBC for applied animal biology to hopefully one day maybe be a marine biologist or just like a field biologist. So I am half mix of a bunch of things. My mom is a couple generations Canadian, so she's mostly Italian, but she has a whole bunch of other stuff. We call her a mutt, which is very rude, but so she has a whole bunch of other stuff in there. And my dad is like through and through 100% Turkish, so that makes up a huge part of who I am. My mom kind of having like this westernized culture, wasn't really a little bit of Italian, like kind of a Catholic culture to her. She very quickly adapted like a typical Turkish lifestyle type of thing, so she adapted to the culture very quickly. So I've lived a pretty heavily Turkish influenced life.
And he's back.
My dad moved here when he was 21, so from Turkey on his own. He went to university to be a French teacher, so he spoke French. So he had pretty much two places he could go. He thought, okay, I can go to France, or I can go to Canada where they speak French. So when he moved here, first he went to Montreal, and then he said, this is too cold. And then he moved to Winnipeg, and he said, oh my God, this is even colder. So then finally he realized, oh, Vancouver is like one of the warmest parts of Canada. So he came here and he met my mom, and after 3 months of knowing each other, they got married so my dad wouldn't get deported, and they've been married ever since. They actually didn't tell my mom's parents because it was very quick after they met each other, so a year later they had another wedding. So if you ask my grandma, they've been married for a different amount of time than they actually have been. A year is difference, but so growing up in Vancouver, I went to an elementary school that was very predominantly white, westernized culture. Everyone, if they were religious, were Christian or just didn't have a faith. And me growing up Muslim, sometimes it was hard to assimilate into.
Do you feel like
being first generation Canadian has affected your relationships with your parents or your peers?
To be religious and like in my way, I never covered my hair like most Muslim girls do, just because I went to, like, one, my mom never did because she converted, and two, because none of my peers did. So I did like lose some culture for sure because the elementary school I went to, mix of like, oh, like I want to assimilate into my peers and I want to be just like my peers are, and I had a huge sense of imposter syndrome through a lot of school, just because I've always wanted to be like everyone else and not, like be the one standing out, and like I was the only Muslim girl in my grade and my classes, so it was tricky a little bit. So through elementary school it was, again, predominantly white, and then I got into high school where the culture changed. We went to a school with a very large population of Indo-Canadians. So when I went to this high school and there was all this culture, finally culture surrounded by me, I was a little bit shocked, and I was like, oh, these people accept their culture. Whereas in elementary school it was a little bit more suppressed to kind of fit in. I wanted to be like the other people who didn't practice the same religion as me, didn't have the same values as me and all that. So, but then all these people were comfortable with their culture, and I was like, oh, why have I never really wanted to show off my culture as much? Yeah, so that was a whole thing in high school. But as far as being a first generation Canadian and with my parents, it was also a struggle for my dad to see his brothers back home have kids who were so heavily more religious than we were. I don't speak the language fluently. My brother's first language was Turkish, and he lost it all. Speaks only English. I understand a little bit of Turkish. I'm not fluent at all, and I know it bugs my dad, and it bugs me, and it bugs my mom. It's been good. I don't think my dad regrets moving here, but he for sure thinks about what life would be like if we had lived over there instead of in Canada. So, most people, they're like, oh, my family is from France and I speak French. Oh, my family's from Italy and I speak Italian. That's how one identifies how much of a culture you are. But for me, like, how do you tell people that you identify as a culture? Like, I, through and through, being Turkish is 100% a part of me that makes me me. But what normally would be associated with having a culture, I can barely do. I can't speak the language. I don't practice Islam as much as I should. Besides my nose, there's not much Turkish stereotype to me or culture to me besides the huge identity of feeling like I am Turkish. So it is a weird balance of things.
So, have you ever faced any hardships or prejudices regarding your ethnicity? If so, what was this issue and how did you resolve it?
The comments from people who, because they have culture behind them, think it's okay. Like, I've been told, oh, watch out, Aaliyah has a bomb in her pencil case, and they think it's the funniest thing, which it doesn't really bother me. And it's just something you kind of move on from. Again, because I don't cover my hair, I'm just bound to face less prejudice, and I've never faced anything considerably, I've never been discriminated against, I've never been denied anything because of my religion, and I'm lucky for that, and I understand there's a lot of people who do that. It's fun. Okay.
Do you feel like parts of your identity would be different if you lived in another place? Why or why not?
Yeah, living in Vancouver, I have a lot of freedom to find out who I am, and I've had a lot of freedom to find out who I am. Whereas I know in Turkey, seeing the way my cousins grew up, they still know who they are, but it was a very different process for them. Like, a lot of them, they have to hide from their parents, which I have very loving, accepting parents I never really had to do. Hi Maggie, how's it going? I hope you like my words.
We love Geography 241.
It's gonna be hard. Hi, my name's Matthew. I go to Langara and I'm in kinesiology. I went into kinesiology because when I was little, I like to be an active person. And when I was little, I was very underprivileged because my parents were always working, so I never got to get into sports because they didn't have the commitment, couldn't drive me, blah, blah, blah. My family, my mom and my dad came from the Philippines. Their parents knew each other and they just got married, I know. And then, so my dad moved here with, so my dad has 8 siblings and my mom has 2. And typically Filipino families have like a lot of siblings and a lot of cousins, and I have 24 cousins, I think. There's some I forget, but and which is really nice because I really like having a big family. So my parents came here with my aunts and uncles, and they moved to Winnipeg, and 3 of them moved to Vancouver. My dad and his 2 sisters, and thank God they did because I hate Winnipeg. My cousins live there and I visit them, I hate it. And yeah, so I left Vancouver, whoa Vancouver. So they came here and they lived in a tiny house with my 2 aunts. And then there's like a basement and they all had kids. So there's like 5 kids, like 4 adults, and they also had their spouses. So there was 6 adults and like 4 kids like running wild in like a basement. My parents moved out, I think, and into this other house. So it was just like me, my mom, my dad, and my little brother. Oh no, my little brother wasn't born yet. So we were in that house and it was really hard, which is why I didn't play sports a lot, because my mom would work at a bank and she still went to school to finish her degree, continuing on because she went to University of the Philippines or something. So she finished her degree in accounting, and she would tell me how she had to walk downtown East Side at night, and I was just like, whoa, how did you, like, what? But she's not a very scared person. She's a very strong woman. My dad would work graveyard shifts, so my mom would be with us. Okay, my dad would be with us in the day, and then my mom would go to work and school, and then at night, when my mom came home, my dad would go to work, and my mom would take care of us. It was very hard, I could imagine. So that's why I feel bad if I use money from her. That's why I got a job when I was 16, because I just didn't want to have to ask her because, yeah, I just felt bad. Hi, thanks for watching.
Say hi, Maggie.
Hi, Maggie.
We love Geography 241.
We love geography. Living in Vancouver, living in Delta. Living in Delta, in my school there was, I think, 3 Filipinos and 5 Asian people in total in my grade. So that was pretty rough trying to connect with my culture, because I didn't really like the Filipino people there. Not because they were Filipino, just because their personalities, we just didn't match. And then, so I was never really in touch with my culture because I was just surrounded by like white people and then brown people, and a lot of my friends were white, or are white, so there's not that like connection with like culture. Like I teach them like once in a while like Filipino words, which is like really fun. So yeah, I'm not really connected with my culture in that way, but all my cousins and stuff, we're all very whitewashed, I guess, being first generation Canadian. So I sometimes forget I'm Filipino, because all of my like actions and stuff I feel like are very like white.
Do you feel more or less connected to your individual culture and language having been raised in Vancouver?
I feel less.
Why?
I'd say it's because I'm not surrounded. Like, okay, also I used to live in Richmond when I was younger. In Richmond, there's like a lot of Asians. There's a lot of Filipinos. There's a big Filipino community out there. And like I spend a lot of time in Richmond because my parents have their business in Richmond, so I go there a lot. And my cousins live in Richmond, so I go there a lot as well. And in elementary school, all my friends were Asian. I think all of my best friends in each grade was a Filipino person. And I think I was connected to my culture when I was little, until grade 3 when I moved to Delta. So it's kind of the different cities that like kind of shaped it. I'd say if I lived in Richmond, I'd be more connected to my language or culture and language because even when I was little, even though I didn't know much Tagalog, which is like the dialect I speak with my family, even though I didn't know much Tagalog, like my Filipino friends, we would still like talk in Tagalog and it'd just be funny to us because we're not born in the Philippines, so it's like us trying to like retake that culture. But in high school, and when I moved to Delta in grade 3, like nobody was Filipino, so I didn't have that connection with the culture and the language. My family lives in a village in the Philippines, and it's a very like small village, and it's like not in the city, so everyone like knows each other. And when I was little, I went visit the Philippines, and I haven't been back since I went when I was like 2, so I don't remember anything. But my mom would tell me stories about how she would have to leave, but I'd have to stay with the village people because she had to like get groceries like out of town. And then it took like the whole village, because I used to cry a lot when I was little. Yeah, like she said how like it took the whole village to help to make me stop crying because I just wanted to see my mom, but obviously she was running errands. So it'd be nice to go back there and like see everyone again and see like, because a lot of the times I see like old family and they're like, oh, you're so little, blah blah blah. It's nice to have that foundation to your identity.
Have you ever faced any hardships or
I
prejudice?
can't be glad. Yes. One time, okay, yeah. I honestly probably faced more, but I'm a very like passive person, so I don't really internalize when bad things happen to me. I just like let them go and I don't realize like what's the real reason behind it. But there was this one specific time at work. So I work at a retail store, and there was this white man, and he was like an older man, so I was like, even though it's like not justifiable, it's like kind of understandable because they like lived in a different era or time, whatever. So he was just like, so there was like, we have sales all the time, and there's like percentages, and he just got confused about which like underwear was which percentage. And then so he was just looking at it, and then he was like, he was already, when I first came up to him, I was like, oh hey, how are you doing? And then he was already like in a bad like mindset, so I was like, ooh, yikes. So then he's like, what's the price of these, like why is it always messy here? This is why I don't come here. And I was just like, whoa, calm down. And then so I told him, he was like, oh, this is like 50% off and this is 40% off. And he was like, in my country we read left or right, like I don't know where you're from, but that's not how it works. And I was just like, what? Like, are you actually talking to me? Like I've never had actually noticed like someone be like racist to me. And I don't know why he was in such like I don't know if he was just like a racist person or something happened that he was having a bad day, but I was just very like taken aback. And then I was like, what the heck? And I was just like, okay. And I just kind of walked away. And then when I walked away, I realized, I was like, oh, that was kind of really bad. And then I felt bad about myself because I was like, I've never felt this way before. And it just like made me think like, oh, this actually happens to like people. Like, I guess I was very naive to think that it couldn't happen to me, just because I've just been surrounded by like white people my entire life mostly. So it's just like, oh, like, no white people would do that, because like all my friends would never do that either, right? But like obviously all my friends are my age, and like this generation is like different in their mindset. So yeah, I just kind of let it go, but maybe I should have stood up for myself. I don't know. Bye. Thanks for watching.
Say hi, Maggie.
Hi, Maggie.
We love geography too.
We love geography.
I shall be strong. Wonder the world, power of people. I've been alone. My faith is strong.